Okay, there we are live. Good day and welcome back to another episode of the Air Force Podcast. My name is Jaco and today we have Bert Coetzer with us. Welcome back.
Nice to geez. You could always cut it that part. My
I'll edit
tongue
it
is
out.
twisted here. Thanks for
Uh,
having me, Yaku. I'm ready for a nice chat today. Let's
yes,
get
me
it
too. And
going.
just before we started recording, we talked about you being a psychologist. You studied psychology as well as being a dietitian. So what are you
Mm-hmm.
currently doing now? Are you currently a dietitian?
Currently, what I'm doing, I'm a nutritional psychiatrist. I focus
Okay.
on the gap between food, psychology, and the brain. I actually also work in psychiatric hospitals where I work with depression, burnout, anxiety, eating disorders. Because even for myself, when I left South Africa 2010, I was 118 kilograms. So I was as wide as I was tall. I was like a walking Oros man. So that's when I started thinking about, let's start understanding what food is, the whole dietic side. Studied it, but the problem is all of us actually know how to eat healthy. That's not the difficult thing. It's the why we aren't doing it, the psychology behind it. Because that's where I really started going deep into nutritional psychiatry, how it affects the brain, our mood, our forms of escape. So that's in a nutshell what I do currently.
Okay. And then why did you decide to do that? And especially the effect on psychology eating. Why did you decide to do that?
What's two constants we will always have in life? The one we always have to stop 3 times a day to eat. And what's another thing we'll always face in life? Suffering, stress, anxiety, hardship. Those two things we'll always have in life. We can't remove any of those two. But the way they affect one another is kind of why I went down that rabbit hole. And also the other reason why we generally learn and try to help the thing we first need to fix in ourselves. That's kind of where that all came from.
Okay, so you actually wanted to help yourself, and in that process, you actually realized, okay, there's actually a wider audience. There's a lot of people experiencing the same things as you do, and then you started to help them after you have actually finished helping yourself. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. That's right. Also, why that whole thing, why I do it, first of all, if you think food, every day your body is in a state of breaking itself down and rebuilding itself. Now, either it's getting better or it's getting worse. What determines how good of a copy you become? In fact, generally, about every 2 years, every single cell in your body has basically rebuilt itself. What determines how good those cells are is what you put in your mouth, what these two hands take in. That's the building blocks of the body, is what you give it. But also how that affects the brain. The worse our lifestyle is, the quicker we feel stress, the worse the stress feel, the quicker we deal with anxiety, we deal with depression. You can't separate the two really. It's easy to just think of a diet as food and psychology as dealing with life. They just always go hand in hand.
Okay, so you actually want people to see that link and see and recognize the link between dieting and mental health. That is correct. And
Let me give you an analogy there,
okay,
easy way for people to see that. Let's put on one side of the table why we eat. We eat biologically to survive, for nutrients and energy. Okay, one side. That's why we have to eat. There's another whole section. Why do we eat? We eat to celebrate. What do people do on their anniversaries, on their birthdays? They want to go eat. What do you do when it's holiday? You Google the best restaurant. What do you do when you got promoted at work? You want to go eat. What do you do when you get demoted at work? You still want to go eat. What's the best memories you have of grandparents? Generally around food. Holidays, we even celebrate around food. Christmas, Easter, food, food, food. To another extent, when's the last time you sat down and socialized with friends without something going to your mouth?
I don't think ever. To be honest, I don't
We
think ever.
even, yeah, that's the thing. We even
Yeah.
bond with food. We use food to socialize, to build bonds. Even cultures identify through food. Indian food, South African food, English food, Zulu food, Italian, Japanese. Food even becomes the identity of a culture. The brain is so wired to a food bias. But now the environment we are in isn't serving the health part of that.
Okay. And then how should you address getting into the health part of the food? Because a lot of the food you see nowadays it's processed foods. A lot of that trans fat, sugars, a lot of sugars. Actually, it's actually only sugars. Um, how do you make that shift? How do you get into more nutritious eating and bridging that gap?
In order to become more nutritious and healthy, you first need to ask yourself why. Without having a good enough reason for you to become healthy, you're not going to succeed. You need to first dive into, okay, let's say you want to get healthy. First of all, healthy means nothing. If people think about this, they need to be granular. I want to get healthy. Okay, you know what? I want to lose, say, 10 kgs, just as an example here. Okay, now you know the big goal. I want to lose 10 kilograms. Now, what do I have to do to get there? But more specifically, what does that losing the 10 kilograms mean to you? Because I'm going to look better. Now, a great exercise here is what we call the 5 whys. Let's say you want to lose 10 kgs. Write it down. Ask yourself, why do you want to lose 5 kgs? Because I want to look better. Okay, why do you want to look better? Because if I look better, I might be more confident to speak up of who I am. Why do you want to be more confident to speak up? Because I'm actually hiding who I am because I feel uncomfortable in my own skin. Why do you see, every time that why get asked, you go deeper down the real reason. Unless
And
you
then
have
it
a
becomes
clear
psychology.
reason why. Exactly, you're not going to do it.
Okay. Okay. So with that now being said, and asking all of that whys, how do you get them motivated? Even, uh, but as you just said, you don't get to answer all the whys. Then you actually don't want to achieve your goals. But how do you then get motivated again when you have uh, going deep down into yourself, diving deeply, doing that self-reflection? How do you get motivated again? How do you get again there where you want to be to become more healthy, to go out and exercise, to eat better?
Okay, to address that, I'm going to go off on a bit of a tangent. A lot of times I like giving the bigger picture before we narrow it down. But before I do that and give a nice way to think about this, motivation is a fecal master. If you wait to be motivated to anything, it will never happen. Action leads to motivation. Motivation doesn't lead to action. A lot of time it's just doing the smallest thing possible. That's sometimes enough just to create the action that leads to the motivation. But if we need to wait to get motivated, sorry if I sound like a nihilist, we are going to fail. Motivation is the worst thing to chase. Now, in order to approach all of that in a nutshell, I always ask people to think of a sailboat. There's a sailboat on the ocean. There's the water. There's the waves. That little sailboat needs wind to move its sails. Now the wind is blowing. The sailboat's moving. It's moving. Thing is, that sailboat's moving in a circle. Is it moving? Yes. Is it going anywhere? Hell no. It's moving in a circle. That sailboat needs to know what port it is sailing to. Once it knows what port it's going to, it can use the wind to steer the sails to move in that direction. Now, what are those ports? What is the port we have to go to? This is what I always tell people. Think about dividing life into the 4 quadrants. I call it the 4 quadrants of life. The first quadrant, the physical body. We only have one body. Without it, we cease to exist. But we also can't just go to a shop, you know what, I want to replace the lung, I want to replace the eye, I'm not happy with the left butt cheek, I want to buy a new one. We're not there yet, unfortunately. Then the second quadrant is the mind, the brain, intelligence. If you don't use it, you lose it, exercising the mind. The third quadrant, spirituality. This is one a lot of people kind of get hung up a bit. And when I say spirituality, I don't always mean religion. I've met people that are religious, but they're not spiritual, and I've met people that are spiritual, but not religious. Spirituality, think about what brings you peace in life. What gives you purpose in life? That's what I mean with spirituality. And then there's the fourth quadrant. The one we spend 8, 9, 10 hours a day, 5 to 6 days a week. We don't always want to do it. Work, career. And those four things kind of make up what we have to go through on a day-to-day basis. Then in those quadrants, you put 2 to 3 things you want to achieve in the next 12 months. Not 5 things, not 10 things, 2 or 3. In the body one, maybe it might be something, lose 5 kilograms, run my first 15 kilometers, deadlift 2 times my body weight, whatever. Something you would like to achieve physically. Intellectually, maybe I want to read 15 books. Maybe I want to start writing every day. Anything where we, like the physical part, we exercise the brain. Then the spiritual one, 2 to 3 things. Example, meditate 3,000 minutes, play with my kids afternoons, anything that will bring you spirituality, maybe yoga, meditation, whatever. And then career. A lot of people are very unhappy and stressed because of work. If that is the case, I want to find a new job in 12 months. Okay, what skills do I need now? What new development might I have to do? Maybe send out 2 CVs a week. Whatever that is, you still need to plan for that. By having those 4 quadrants neatly planned out, it becomes easier to know what to do every 6 months, every 3 months, every month, every week. Then I know what to do on a daily basis in order to get there. Nobody's going to keep you accountable. You need to keep yourself accountable. Is it going to be easy? No. Are we going to be motivated? No. But if we have a system in place like that, it gives you the tools to see, are you moving in the right direction, or are you that sailboat that just goes around in a circle? And unfortunately, most of us are doing this because we don't know where we are headed to. And then we just habitually do the same things.
Okay. And then we also actually just touched on it in the week about habits. You also you posted a video about the habits, eating habits, and how your habits affect your mood. It affects how you eat. It actually affects a lot of things you do. And would you say doing that things in habits, your 4 quadrants, the goals you want to achieve, do you think by doing that in habit, how can you start practicing it in habit and uh, doing that every single day or doing it as regular as possible to achieve the goals? So, how should we get into the habit of doing that?
First thing, habits. In order for me to answer that, I first need to draw a bit of a bigger picture on what is a habit actually. Now, the brain weighs about 2-3% of your body weight. The brain also is the most hungry energy organ we have. It needs 25 to 30% of all the energy your body needs. Throughout survival, that is very dangerous. For thousands of years, we never knew when our next meal is going to be there. We never knew if we're going to have a meal today. So the brain needed to find a way to not think, because thinking costs energy. So how does it do that? Habits. In a day, 60 to 70% of what you do, you don't actually think about. You just automatically do it. That's the power of habits. But why is it like that? Because it doesn't cost energy. Let's take an example. You sit on the sofa, you turn on Netflix, and you eat a bag of Simba chips. Simba chips, neurons fired. Netflix, neurons fires in the brain. And then the same, Netflix, chips. Netflix, chips. Over time, the brain realizes these neurons and these neurons constantly fire together. So it's actually going to create a bridge where they fuse them together. Neurons that fire together fuse together. Then it becomes now to the point, if you just see Netflix, you hear Netflix, guess what you're going to want? The chips. Because these neurons are automatically firing now. And this isn't just humans, animals also. Pavlova did an amazing experiment with dogs where he rings a bell, feeds the dogs, rings the bell, feed the dogs. Then after a while, he stopped giving them the food. He rings the bell. Guess what? Biologically, they still salivated. Their body released insulin even. Those cues for habits can be visual, it can be taste, smell, it can be sight, it can be sound. That's where habits are actually so deep into us, we never think about them. You first need to become aware of those habits because you never stop anything. You replace one thing for something else. People say they stop reading books. No, they didn't stop reading books. They replaced it with YouTube or sleep. People stop running. They never stop running. They replaced it with procrastination, sitting at home watching TV. If you think back in your own history, you've never stopped anything. You've always been replacing one thing for something else. Okay, now then we understand, well, okay, to make new habits, you first need to become aware, what is your current habits? What are the habits you are doing without realizing they are there? You know what? Every night I watch Netflix, I eat a bag of chips. Okay, is that helping me lose that 10 kgs now? No, it's not. Okay, so I need to address this habit. How do I address this habit? Think about replacing it. Does that mean I'm just going to stop wanting chips? No. Maybe we don't have chips at home at night. Then also, what can I replace? If I have a craving for chips, not having it, by all means, it's okay. But maybe having a cup of tea. A cup of tea can actually relax me, make me better sleep. Netflix, cup of tea. I still want my chips. Then after 14 days, 21 days, 3 months, depending how intricate those networks are, the new habit will be the tea with Netflix. And that affects all. If you want to start reading, start small. In the mornings when you wake up, 3 to 5 minutes reading. The more you do it, the more that habit will be formed. Exercise is a prime example. People want to go to the gym. I want to start gymming 7 days a week. You're going to fail. Sorry if I sound negative, you are going to fail. I always start with people. You know what? Twice a week, 20 minutes. What do you mean twice a week, 20 minutes? Twice a week, go for 20 minutes. If you can do that for 3 weeks, make it 30 minutes twice a week now. If you then again can do that for another 2 weeks, do 45 minutes now. Then again, maybe now go 3 times. You started a micro small habit. Once you're already used to doing that, it becomes easy to do it more. If you set yourself up 7 days a week, you go to the gym maybe 3 times this week. Psychologically, do you feel good or that you failed? You feel you failed. The next week, you feel you failed again. You feel you fail again. And guess what? You give up.
Yes, I hear what you're saying. So, and also that smaller goal setting and doing things in a smaller way. Just as you said, going only 20 minutes the first time, or just making tea. Uh, how can we incorporate that into other practical things? Maybe into the work life and into the spiritual part.
Again, that's where this is such a nuanced thing. It depends what your goal is. As I said, those 4 quadrants are the key pillars here where you need to think now 12 months later, what are those things you want to achieve? Then you need to sit down and actually really get honest with yourself. What are those habits you currently have that's taking you in the opposite direction? Spirituality. Let me give an example. Every day, maybe you've got kids, you've got a wife, you get home, you're exhausted, you are tired. I don't want to talk to anybody. I don't have time for this now. Okay, I get that. We all feel tired at the end of the day. But in your spirituality, family was a big thing for you. Your family gives you purpose. Okay, what about I just do the effort of 5 minutes having a decent conversation with my family? It's 5 minutes. I didn't say 20 minutes, just 5 minutes. Listen to the wife, talk to the kids, sit on the floor, chat with them, 5 minutes. That's easy, it's doable. But the beauty of these small things, Once you've done 5 minutes, it generally becomes 10 or 15 or 20 minutes and you feel better. As I said in the beginning of this conversation, if you wait to be motivated to do it, you're never going to do it. But that small action motivates you to do more of it and you feel good. Same with exercise. Go for a 10-minute walk. You'll end up doing more. Talk to the wife. Say, I'm going to read 40 pages this week. Read 2 pages today. That's my goal. After 2 pages, you're already going to tell yourself, you know what, I'm already here with this book. I've read 2 pages. Why don't I just read 2 more? It's making these things small enough to start. That's the key. Unless you start anything, you're not going to do anything. Action first, motivation follows that.
Okay, and on that note, how does self-control contribute to these factors, and especially to habits? So you see the pack of chips. So you mentioned you shouldn't buy chips. There shouldn't be chips in your house. But what if maybe there is chips in your house? How is self-control and habits and all of this interlinked, and how can you get, I would say, better self-control to perform better habits, or to rather, you actually said to switch habits?
The can of worms that is self-control. Again, you'll see whenever I go into topic, I like to explain the science first, and then we can actually unpack how to do it. Self-control and willpower. It's generally 2 words we kind of use as the same thing. Now, let's go into the brain first. And in order for me to explain clearly how this works, we've got 24 hours in a day. If we had to break down 24 hours into 3 blocks, what would that look like? A nice 8, 8, 8. Now, neuromodulators are things that are in the brain that makes us do things, feel things, and stuff like that. Now, that 24 hours is broken into 3 blocks. The first block is a dopamine phase. We're going to get back to that. The second block is a serotonin phase. We're going to get back to that. And the third block is a melatonin phase. Now, the last block is 8 hours. Melatonin, think of sleep. You're supposed to be asleep the last 8 hours of your day. That's just how we are set up. Now, what is dopamine? We've always thought dopamine is this thing that makes us feel happy. Dopamine isn't actually about happiness. Dopamine is the molecule that drives us to do more of what we perceive value. We're going to get back to that. Then serotonin is the molecule of contentment. You know what? Life's good. I have enough. We can sit under the sun, sing Kumbaya, and look at the sunset. That's what serotonin does. It makes us just feel good about life. Now, that dopamine phase starts the moment you wake up, 0 to 8 hours. But dopamine has a few cousins, the 3 musketeers. They go hand in hand. With dopamine, we've got adrenaline. Adrenaline is the thing that gives us the energy to move, the energy to go after what we perceive value from dopamine. Then there's a third one, acetylcholine. Acetylcholine gives us that narrow-mindedness focus. We can hone in the focus. Think of an arrow. Everyone knows what an arrow looks like. The shaft of the arrow is the adrenaline. That's what moves the arrow in our direction. The head of the arrow is the dopamine. That's where we choose what direction the arrow goes in. And the pin, that little point of the arrowhead, that's the acetylcholine. That's the focus. You know, sometimes when you get really focused into something, everything next to you disappears. You don't think about it. Now, the problem is, what happens 8 hours after you've woken up? Those things start going down. Serotonin comes up. Dopamine, adrenaline, acetylcholine. Those 3 things make up what we say as willpower. 10 o'clock at office, there's a box of donuts. You know what? I'm trying to lose weight. I'm not going to have donuts. It's fine. You can say no. 3 o'clock in the afternoon, that box of donuts. Everyone knows you're going to have one. Why is it so difficult to say no in the evening and to say no in the morning? Your brain is not the same state in the evening as in the morning. That's where you need to think, well, if you don't want to eat the chips at home, by all means, your willpower is not the same at night than it is in the morning. It just biology doesn't function like that. If the chips are in the house, it's going to be likely you're going to eat them. I don't say don't have them in the house, but be aware that's how the brain functions. You can't manipulate these systems. That's why everyone can say no to a slice of chocolate cake 10 in the morning, 6 o'clock at night, and there's cake in the fridge. I'm watching Netflix. It's going to happen.
Okay. And you also now mentioned what was it? Adrenaline and serotonin, and what was the other one?
So the three musketeers is dopamine,
Yes.
the molecule of more.
Yes. Yes.
Adrenaline is the thing that gives us the energy to chase whatever dopamine gets us, and acetylcholine is the focus.
The focus. Okay, so how do you get that hormones released during the whole day? How do you get them at night? Is there a way? Is there a way to produce maybe more of them, get more of them?
Put it this way, those three levers, the moment you start pulling them into other areas, you're going to pay the price. Okay. As I work in a psychiatric hospital, this is one thing we see a lot. Cocaine, heroin, all these drugs, they pull the dopamine lever. That's why it's so addictive. But the moment you pull that dopamine lever into the evenings with acetylcholine, you're going to bring your serotonin levels down, which in return is going to mean your melatonin levels are also going to come down. Now you're messing up your sleep. Messing up your sleep already puts you at a lower point the next day. Now your baseline of dopamine is going to be lower the next day. You're going to be more cranky, less acetylcholine, much more sugar cravings. So yes, by trying to manipulate that to not fail in the evenings, you're already setting yourself up for failure the next day. That's where environment is something we need to be aware of. My morning brain and my evening brain's not the same. Okay, how do I then make sure my house is a healthy environment? If it's in the house, you're going to eat it. By not having it in your house is a safety net. What about putting in a system? My house is my health haven. This is where I nourish my body. And go out to indulge. I don't say people have to eat clean all the time. If 80% of the time you are focused on nourishing the body, 20% is enjoy what the hell you want. Over a weekend, if I want a pizza or a hamburger, I'm not going to have a hamburger with no bun and a side salad. I'm going to have a bloody burger with chips and bacon and blue cheese if I can find it on it. But I go out for that. Now you're creating clear boundaries between goals, achieving it, going out and indulging. That can be with exercise, mind, home. If you're going to your bed, if you keep social media, yes, if you're going to get in bed, you want to do it. Environment and boundaries is another layer for people to think about. How can they set up those structures? But it comes back to that when we started. If you don't know where you're going, we don't know what structures to put up because everyone is different.
And you also now touched sugar cravings and cravings in general, actually. What is that? Is that the deficiency in the body? Is that something in the brain? What is a deficient, oh, not a deficiency, a craving? How do you crave for something? How do you actually want that piece of cake? How do you say, okay, I want that bag of chips? How does that?
Two layers. Generally, when people crave, the first thing I ask them, are you actually hungry? No, most people aren't hungry, so it's actually not that they need it. Then it comes to two different things. Is it a habit you formed? Every night I have the cake at home. Every 10 o'clock I have a snack at work. Every 3 o'clock I have a snack at work. Remember I said our habits get formed. Neurons that fire together fuse together. Okay, you know what? Every 10 o'clock I want that snack. Every 3 o'clock I want a piece of cake. Not having that cake, see tomorrow again if you have it. Then you can start seeing if it's actually a habit because the body functions on habits. The second one, usually with cravings, what's the trigger? Is it a confrontation with the husband? Is it the boss that goes off on you? Is it, I have work to do, but I'm not doing the work, so now I get anxious? And what is a quick escape for all of those emotions? Eating. Eating gives us dopamine. Dopamine makes us feel better about ourselves. It's the quickest escape to feel good. Food. Then we feel guilty afterwards because dopamine has a pain point, and we reinforce that habit. So every time, you know what, I've got this email to write to my boss. I know I should do it. Let's go get a snack. It becomes procrastination. Or you had a fight with your spouse, or you're stressed about finances. The more you're going to eat, the more you create that escape where food now. And usually, what is the best, most addictive substance? It's not sugar. If I give you a bowl of sugar and I tell you to start eating, 3-4 teaspoons, you're going to stop. Let me mix sugar and fat. You can't stop. Your brain lights up like a Christmas tree. It literally activates the binge response. Or I take fat and salt and I give you that to eat. Think of a Cadbury slab. You can't have one block, you will finish the whole block. You can't just have one small one. A Simba chip, a bag of Simba chips, if you take one, you don't eat one chip, you eat the whole bloody bag. Why? Where in nature do you find food that's high in fat and sugar or high in fat and salt? They don't exist. In our intestines, we've got neuropod cells. And on the tongue, you also have these receptors. If they sense these molecules together, signal to the brain, eat, eat, eat. Remember, for thousands of years, you never knew when your next meal is going to be there. So if you came across something like that in nature, you will binge until there's nothing left to survive for the next day or two. Food companies design food this way. And that dopamine hit you get from it is a form of escape from the emotions, the stress, the things I know I should be doing, but I'm not doing it. Most of us know, after a stressful conversation or something, or you're anxious about something, we crave that sugar or that saltiness.
Okay, and you also now mentioned fat. Now, what does fat actually has to do with it? Is it because it nourishes the body, it gives the extra things to the brain? What does fat do?
Fat in itself does many
Can,
things.
can I quickly interrupt you before you go into that? And what the things that Tim Noakes is saying about fat? Would you address that as well, please?
Put it this way, there's 3 macronutrients, actually a 4th one. So let's touch on the whole topic then quickly. Protein is 1 macronutrient, carbs is 1 macronutrient, fats is 1 macronutrient. Now, protein, I did say there's a 4th one, I'll get to that. Protein, the body needs for all DNA replication, for all muscle cells, the immune system needs it. Protein is one of the most vital macronutrients also. Muscle matters, DNA matters. Carbohydrates, the devil. You shouldn't eat carbs. Carbs make you fat. Anything can make you fat if you overconsume it. The role of carbs is energy. That's your body's petrol. Then there's fat. Fat is a reserve form of energy. Different fats are needed to synthesize different hormones. It's also a necessity for brain health, but so is carbs. Your brain needs glucose. It's the most glucose-hungry organ you have. It's the brain. Yes, there's ketones. So these 3 food groups serve a different purpose. Think of a car. You won't put petrol in your oil tank, and you won't put oil in your gas tank, and you won't put brake fluid in your window washer thing. They all are liquids, but they serve different purposes. Same with food. Protein, carbs, and fats, 3 different food groups that serve a different purpose in the body. Now, on the top of low fat, high carb, keto, all this, I always tell people there is no right or wrong. It depends. If somebody tells me they're going to go keto, low fat, high carb, whatever, okay? The question is, can you do it for the rest of your life? If you can't, then what's the bloody point? You are setting yourself up for failure. You're going to do it for 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 12 weeks. You're going to stop and you're going to go do what? Back to what you were doing in the first place. And you're going to gain everything you've lost. So what was the point? This is where everyone is different. Focus on protein first. Then whatever is high fat, low carb, high carb, it doesn't matter. If we combine all three into a wholesome diet, there is no best. Yes, genetically, there's about 2% of people that are better on a high fat diet and a low carb because their body has a better capability of converting fat into energy. ATP is our energy molecule, adenosine triphosphate. But it's a very difficult process to take fat into ATP. Carbohydrates is very easy to convert into ATP. Protein is the worst. Your body does not want to do it. So yes, some people can be better on high fat, but it's throwing the baby out with the bathwater. We always think, what's the best diet? What's the best? It doesn't matter. We all are different. The simplest thing I can tell people then, take a plate of food. Half of that plate, fruits or vegetables, fresh produce. 30% of that plate, a good protein. 20% of that plate, whole carbs. If that's what you eat 3 times per day, you're winning 90% of the game. Done. But remember, it's not fancy. It's not clickbait. It's not, I have to be in this. Diets are like religion for a lot of people. I'm on keto, I'm banting, I'm paleo, this is the best, this is the best. There is none of that. It doesn't exist. That's when somebody tells me, you know what, I'm on paleo diet, I'm going to do this. I'm like, perfect. I just have one question. Can you do it for the rest of your life? If you can, by all means. For me, remember, the more restrictive you become, I'm doing keto. What's the social price you're paying for that? The psychological price. Your friends always going out on a Friday evening after work. No, boys, I can't have it because I'm dieting. I can't have this. I'm on keto or I'm on paleo or I'm banting. You're going to stop being invited. So there is no right or wrong. We overcomplicate this. So this whole Noakes thing, keto, banting, a diet shouldn't have a name. Full stop.
Okay. And then you also mentioned you need protein, you need the fats, you need the carbs. There's a common misconception about eating too much protein and the negative effects it has on your liver, on your
Kidneys.
kidneys. Yeah. So how much is actually bad for you?
Short and sweet, it isn't. But there's always a but. If you are diagnosed with a kidney problem, protein needs to be monitored. If you don't have a kidney problem, there is no such thing as too much protein, it's bad for me. Yes, you can't just eat protein and forget about carbs and fats. You still need them. But this that we fear protein is bad for the kidneys, too much of it, no. Unless you're diagnosed with a kidney disease, that's not something to worry about, full stop. That being said, anything too much can be bad for somebody. A lot of times people will say, we can't have too much of this because it's bad. Okay. Drinking too much water is bad. You can literally die by drinking too much water. It's called water toxemia. Does that mean we should stop drinking water? No. Everything going to the excessive can be bad.
Okay, and now I want to ask you about supplements. First, I want to start with vitamins and minerals and this multivitamin pills. And how effective do you think those are, and how much do you think we need them these days, especially because our diet is not good, and especially because the food we eat doesn't actually have all the nutrients that it needs to have?
First of all, a supplement. What does the word supplement mean? Supplement means a supplementation to the diet. Supplements will never be able to replace food. You can't out-supplement a bad diet. Diet should always be the first priority, because how your body actually metabolizes and absorbs nutrients from food is more efficient than nutrients from supplementation. That being said, supplementation is a nice safety net. If I'm focusing on my diet, it's a nice to have. But having a terrible diet and then using all these supplements to balance these two out, nah, you're not going to win the race, because those bad foods you are eating aren't just not nourishing the body. They're not giving the body the building blocks you need in order to get better cell production. So in the long run, you are still breaking down your system. Having the supplements, a good multivitamin, it's a nice safety net. Having an omega-3 supplementation, that's a non-negotiable for me always. And for the active people, creatine. Those are only three things I generally recommend to people. They're not expensive, but we like to spend so much more money on supplements. Some people spend 1,000-2,000 rand a month on all these pills. You know what you could have done? Spend that into some nice food and actually enjoy eating.
Okay, and then we now touch the multivitamins and the pills. Now I want to go into the protein shakes, the fat loss shakes. What do you think about that? Especially because there's this misconception, or I think it's a misconception, that when you drink this fat loss shake, you're going to lose this amount of weight, and if you drink this shake, you're going to gain that amount of muscle. So, what do you think about that?
First of all, before I touch on the shake, remember, if the fat loss is your goal, you're going to have to be in an energy deficit. If what I mean with that, if you need 2,000 calories to stay where you are, the moment you consume more than that, you're going to gain weight. If you consume less than that, you're going to lose weight, irrelevant where it comes from. It's like a savings account. If your expenses are 1,000 rand, I give you 1,200 rand every day, you're not going to throw the 200 rand away. You're going to put it in the savings account. That's the same with energy. If we consume more than we need, we will gain. If you consume, say, 1,800 calories, your body needs to pull 200 from somewhere. That's fat. Now these fat loss shakes and everything. The problem I have with shakes, these fat loss things and everything, you can easier consume liquid calories than you can actually food. How quickly do you drink a shake? Very quickly. You didn't chew anything either. Where if we sit down and we eat food, it takes longer. The eye see it, the brain recognizes it. You are chewing, you are salivating. All those signals makes it more satiating. You feel fuller, you enjoyed the meal more. Shake, 5 minutes later, it's done. You're like, I still want something. Now I'm hungry, I'm agitated. Okay, that's the point on fat loss shakes. I do have a good whey protein and a good vegan protein in my house always, at all times. Why is that? Bulking proteins? No. Unless you're a bodybuilder that needs 5,000 calories a day, it's not worth it to spend all that energy on bulking proteins. These Hulk gainers, mass gainers, lean protein, whey protein, or a vegan one. It gives you the flexibility if you're in a rush. If you have a busy morning coming, a bowl of oats, scoop of protein powder, mix that up, that's a good start to the day. If you can start your day with 24 to 30 grams of protein, protein is the most satiating macronutrient. It keeps us fuller for longer because it's very difficult to break down. So the body is like, wait a bit, stop. We need to break this down. People who had 25 to 30 grams of protein per day in the morning first generally consume 300 calories less per day because of the satiation nature. It's a busy morning, you're running around like a headless chicken. Yes, it's quick to have a shake. Protein powder, banana, some berries, mix that up, we can go. Also, what's nice with those protein powders, what if it's weekend? You're craving some pancakes, flapjacks, maybe you're going to bake some muffins. That vanilla protein powder, put some of that inside the batter to increase the protein of your flapjacks or waffles. Slows down the breakdown so you don't have the massive blood glucose spike. But it's also just taking something that isn't so good, just making it a bit better. yes, then I'm always for a good supplement. I use it in baking, morning oats, even cornflakes. If you only have cornflakes, vanilla protein powder, mix it with some water, teaspoon of cocoa powder. You've got Cocoa Pops for breakfast, basically, with 30 grams of protein now.
Okay, so then it actually becomes a good and nutritious meal. Then it's not just cereal that you just chug in your mouth in the
Yes.
morning. Okay,
Remember,
and
also remember, there's no such thing as perfect.
mm,
We all have a busy life. We have days that are hard. Some mornings you just feel like a headless chicken. How easy is it to quickly whip up a bowl of oats and protein powder? Quick. Having a shake? If you know you're going to have that busy day, okay, let me just quickly get some protein in to get me until 1 o'clock so I don't go to the Shell garage at 10 o'clock and buy a garage part.
okay. You also now quickly mentioned vegan protein, and what actually is vegan protein, and how should you, in any case, recommend going vegan, doing a vegan diet, and actually going into a vegan lifestyle?
This is what always upset people. Being vegan, from a cultural perspective, I always respect people for they doing that. Being a vegan for a health perspective. In South Africa, it is very difficult to be healthy and being a vegan. Why do I say that? I lived in Asia for 10 years. Being a vegan there is doable because we have a lot of different foods that side: tofu, natto, tempeh, fermented tofus, all these pastes and everything that have a lot of vitamins and minerals we don't get in South Africa from vegetable sources. Being healthy vegan in South Africa is going to cost you a lot of money and it's going to cost you a lot of planning. So that's why you can be healthy on a vegan diet. Most vegans in South Africa struggle with protein intake, vitamin K, and iron. So they start supplementing all those things, and it costs a lot of money. A vegan protein, on the other hand, it's not bad. They cost about the same as whey because whey protein did get expensive. Sometimes we can get a vegan protein now for cheaper than a whey. So yes, then I recommend it because you are supplementing your diet with a protein. Vegan protein can't be absorbed at the same rate as whey protein, but usually that's why we just add 10% more of the protein. Then you balance them out. You can get the same benefits from the vegan protein as the whey, but whey protein is nice and creamy, tasty. Vegan protein is generally grainy and it thickens up everything. So you're going to need more liquid. So that's why a lot of people like vegan proteins are like, they don't always taste the best. But in the end, buy the one that you prefer. For me, honestly, if it comes to protein powders, there's not one brand I buy. I buy the one that's on sale. As long as it's a whey protein or a vegan normal protein, buy the one on sale. They're almost all the same.
And also, they're almost all the same. How do you think that the different companies try to, I would say manipulate, but more like convince people into buying their specific supplements? And because there's, I wouldn't say a misconception, but there is this thing about that a lot of the companies lie about the ingredients in their products. They lie about the amount of protein in the products. What do you think about that? Do you think it's a lie? Do you think it's only like conspiracies or people that want some attention? What do you think about that?
I always ask this way. First of all, I always think, what's the point of going into things I can't change or control? So with all these companies, yeah, the way they do things I can't change and control. That's the name of the game, how they manipulate people. Okay. So then what can I do? I would rather just then buy from the biggest companies because the bigger the company, they have more to lose. A lot of times the small unknown companies are the ones that can get away with it because they don't have those strict rules and regulations. Like when I buy, let's say whey, for instance, the reason why I like whey protein or vegan, there's not a lot of extra stuff in it because that's the point of a whey protein powder. It's whey isolate and some flavoring. Yes, the flavoring can be artificial and nobody's going to live clean. But brands like USN, Nutritech, Biogen, they are big companies. They have a lot to lose if they are lying. But suddenly there's a new brand on the shelf. You've never heard of them. You can't trust them. I'm like, yeah, okay. But then that's why I rather buy stuff that are less ingredients, like a whey isolate or a vegan isolate, and add your own stuff to it. Like an omega-3 pills, the ones I always buy. Literally, it's just omega-3s in it. Do I know it's 100% what they say in it? No. Can I change that? No.
So I understand what you're trying to say with that, and how do you think then you can adjust your actual diet in order to, I will say, not use the supplements or not, but because you say you also use whey protein, but how do you think you can adjust your diet and only eat the things correct? Or you actually also said you can never eat perfect, but how can you adjust the diet in order to not need the extra supplementation?
Just being smart about it. Example, my breakfast today, went to the gym, came home. Breakfast today was a chicken breast, country crop veggies, and rice. Yes, I know people's like breakfast, but that's breakfast. It took me 5 minutes. How? Previous night, when you cook food, just roast up some extra chicken breast or whatever meat you're cooking, cook extra veggies, and cook more carbs. That then gives you the next day's food without having to cook anything. Most of the times, we don't eat healthy because we're too lazy to cook every day, or we don't have enough energy to make something. No, we weren't prepared and planned. What if on a Sunday? That's what I do a lot of times. On a Sunday, I'll roast a piece of beef. I'll roast up 10, 12 chicken breasts in the oven. I'll roast up some pork tenderloins. All of that, I roast them or pan fry them or air fry them. Don't put them in Tupperware containers. Then I'll just put them in each in a big container in the fridge. On the stove, big pot of rice. I boil up some sweet potatoes. I boil up some potatoes in the fridge. Veggies, I'll cook up a bag of country crop. Frozen veggies, by the way, there's nothing wrong with it. Frozen veggies is easy, it's quick, it's simple. A lot of times it's fresher than fresh because it gets frozen and sealed. That head of broccoli on the shelf in the supermarket's been there for a week. You cut away half the stem, you waste money. Frozen veggies, nutrient-wise, no issue. What does that afford you for the week? Monday night, I get home after work. I already have beef, pork, and chicken there. You know what? I'm going to cut a piece of chicken. I'm going to grab a potato, put it in the microwave with a bit of cheese on the potato, take some of yesterday's veggies. The only thing you're going to have to make every day or two is the vegetables. That takes you 5 minutes. Once you have the protein and the carbs cooked at home, you're going to eat it. How easy is it for lunch? I'm going to grab some of that rice. I'm going to chop up some of the chicken, a bit of soy sauce over it, some of the veggies from last night, maybe a tablespoon of mayonnaise. I've got a nice Asian bowl for lunch. Second reason why planning is vital. You've took the time to cook that food. You spent the money to buy that food. You're going to think twice now before you hit McDonald's or Mr. D because you don't want to waste the time and money of doing that. It's not about cooking every bloody day. Let's say you get home, you want a curry. You've got cooked potatoes, you've got cooked beef, put all that in a pot, can of tinned tomatoes, curry powder. 5 minutes later, guess what? You've got a curry. If that was Wednesday night and you didn't have any of that, you wouldn't cook. Be smart, not perfect. And you don't have to cook every bloody day.
Okay. And you quickly mentioned mayonnaise. And mayonnaise is said it is one of the biggest contributing factors in the USA for obesity. What is your take on that?
Mayonnaise is high in fat, so I suggest again buy the low fat one. Thing is something to keep in mind, as we said, weight gain is an energy gain. More energy you need. Now, protein, 1 gram of protein is 4 calories, 8 kilojoules. 1 gram of carbs is 4 calories, 8 kilojoules. 1 gram of fat is 9 calories, 36 kilojoules. It's double the amount of energy per gram. But what makes it worse, not worse, but to be vigilant about, if I give you a chicken breast, you know what a chicken breast looks like. It's around 100 grams. That's only 30 grams protein. It's around 120 calories. That other 70 grams is water. Now, let's take a nice large boiled potato. You know what a potato looks like. Everyone does. If not, I really hope you know you're living in South Africa. We live off potatoes also. 100-gram boiled potato is around 80 calories, which is around 20 grams carb. What's that other 80 grams? Water. Now let's get to fat. Let me take 2 teaspoons of oil. Any kind of oil. It doesn't matter now what oil I'm talking about. All fats are the same energy-wise. 2 teaspoons. You know what 2 teaspoons look like. It's 10 milliliters. That's 90 calories. That's more than the whole bloody potato. That's almost as much as the whole chicken breast. Why? What happens when you put water and oil together? They don't mix. That's where it's very easy to overconsume energy from fat. Because with fat, 1 gram is the energy. With carbs, we still have water inside them. Mayonnaise on that topic is very high in energy. Be vigilant. So I personally buy the Woolworths reduced fat mayonnaise. Everyone has a reduced one, but still be vigilant. It is high in energy. South Africa, one of the leading causes of obesity and weight gain is actually none of those things. It's the 4th macronutrient I still haven't mentioned. Alcohol. 1 gram of alcohol is 7 calories, 28 kilojoules. And for a lot of South Africans, that is one of the main excessive energy intakes they consume.
Okay, and now alcohol, I also want to go into the psychology part of that. Why do people drink alcohol? Why do they get that craving? Why do they want that extra bit?
Few things. First of all, alcohol is a sedative, a stimulant. Also, alcohol is social. So again, it comes to both fields now. We do the habit part, where we celebrate with alcohol, we team. People don't watch rugby without drinking. To the extent, a while ago there was a Springbok rugby game. I think it was like a 9:30 game. I go to Spur. I sit down 9 o'clock in the morning. I order a beer. People will look at me strange. That morning I was on my way to gym. I drove past the pub. The whole place is packed and everyone's drinking beer 9 o'clock in the morning. We don't bat an eye. Alcohol and culture and society is pushed together. If I give you a piece of cake and you say no, people won't be too upset. If I offer you a beer and you say no, you'll upset people now. It's socially so encouraged, one reason. Secondly, alcohol, what it does to the brain, it makes us not worry. It takes the edge off. It takes the stress away, which in itself become addictive because we don't have stress. Your prefrontal cortex is the place that's responsible for reasoning, logic, thinking. What about this? What about that? It's also involved in that whole stress thinking. You know, that little hamster wheel in the head. I should be doing this. Why did I do this? The moment I start drinking, you start switching down the prefrontal cortex. Now you don't have those thoughts and you feel more because that whole part of the brain's coming down. Problem with that in itself become now an addictive pattern. No alcohol is good for the body. There is no healthy dosage at all, especially for the brain. What it does to the brain, blackout drunk, you literally shut down the whole prefrontal cortex. People usually will say things and make the worst choices when they were drinking. You know, you have had that thought. Then after a few drinks, you tell your friend or your wife or your girlfriend something. You wouldn't have told them that if you were sober. You still had the thought. But your prefrontal cortex is the thing that puts the brakes on. Just like, don't say it. You're going to mess this up. Start switching it off. You will say what you want. For most people, their worst decisions, the worst fights, everything happens when they are intoxicated because that part of the brain gets shut down. You have no handbrake anymore. Less stress, less worry. Wake up tomorrow with a massive hangover. I feel horrible. How do I get away from that? Drink again. Feel shit. What do? Drink again. Now that habits, as I said, feeling horrible, drinking solves it. Rinse and repeat. And over time, you are messing up your liver. Your whole life gets ruined. Your brain takes a massive, massive knock. There's nothing good I can say about it. That being said, I still enjoy my drinks every now and then. If I'm going to have a drink, I make sure it's something I enjoy. I've had wine. Well, I open a bottle of wine. I don't like it. I throw it away. People will probably think I'm weird. Don't drink to get drunk. If you want to drink, drink something you actually enjoy. I like a good IPA Devil's Peak beer. It tastes nice. But that's not why most of us drink. We drink to escape. To escape what? Those 4 quadrants. Not doing the stuff we know we should be doing. You are that little sailboat going around in a circle. And it's not just alcohol. The word escape and alcohol. Everyone chooses escapes one way or another. Being it alcohol, pornography, gambling, shopping, social media, online gaming, any of these things can be an escape that becomes an addiction. We've worked with a person who was addicted to water. Water. Online gambling. Anything. It just comes, you're escaping from what? Doing what you know you should be doing.
And then you also now mentioned that snowball effect. So you drink, you feel bad, or you do something, you feel bad. How do you get out of that? How do we say, okay, this is enough. We're not going to do that anymore. We're going to break the habit. We're going to exercise all of the willpower. How do you say, okay, I quit. I quit smoking. I quit eating a bag of chips every day. How do you get to that point? Is it a mental shift? Because a lot of people say, like, if they taper it off, they actually just do it again. But when people just say, I quit, the decision is made, it's over. How does that work in the brain? And how can people do that?
Nobody will change unless they're ready to change, first of all. Remember, a lot of times when people want to change, is it them that want to change, or is it imposed onto them to want to change? If somebody's changing because they want to change for the expense of somebody else, it's never going to happen. Full stop. Change only happens when a person gets to a point where not changing becomes worse now than changing. Where that point is different for everyone. But unless you get to that point, you're not suffering enough to create the change. You're just going to stay there because it's all automatic. Then once you know what, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I want to stop drinking, or I want to stop gambling, or I want to stop emotional eating. I want to stop. Okay, perfect. You first had to make peace with you. I have a problem. Be honest. You know what? I have a problem. My eating is driving me to the death. My drinking is taking away time from my family. Without being honest with yourself, never going to happen. Then, okay, who do I want to become? Where do I want to go? Comes back to those 4 quadrants. Now I know who I want to become. Then I need to be clear. What is the plan? Does it mean I want to stop emotional eating? I want to stop gambling? I want to stop drinking something easy? No. That's where you either get professional help, somebody to help you keep accountable. You start talking to your family, tell your friends, guys, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to need you guys to help me with this. I'm going to have hard times. Doing it alone is one of the hardest things to do. Because once we're doing it alone, nobody's watching. Once we do it alone, we've got nothing to rely on other people for. I'm not saying put everything on them, but having that community, that social network. Because if I want to stop drinking, I've got no real reason to, and I didn't tell anybody. It's easy for me to just go past the bottle store, buy a few bottles, go home, drink, tomorrow do it again. I didn't tell anybody I'm going to stop. Even if I just told my friends I'm going to stop, driving past the bottle store, I'm like, you know what? I told Rick I'm not going to stop drinking. I shouldn't. You know what? He's going to ask me about this. So let's just drive past. Then to make peace with that. Any form. Be honest. This is who I am. This isn't serving me. This is who I want to become. Work out your 4 quadrants. Talk to people what you want to do. And be radical open. Be vulnerable. Be who you truly are. Guys, I fucked up. I messed up. This emotional eating, I can't do it anymore. It's a form of escape. I need help. If I want to have that bag of chips, would you mind if I phone you? Yeah, sure. Give me a call. I'm here to help. If you feel uncomfortable bringing your family in, that's where people like myself, and we have many people in the world that does this. This is where you need that person just to keep you accountable. You know what? I'm falling down. A lot of times we don't change because we don't know where to start. We don't know where to start, so we just flounder around in the ocean on that little boat. And it keeps coming back to those 4 quadrants. The clearer you have the picture you want to go, the easier it is to start. Most people don't change because they don't know where to start. I should do keto diet. I should do the Banting diet. I shouldn't drink. I just should stop drinking. You can't stop any bloody thing. You need to look, what's the habit? Replace it for something else, and replace it, and replace it. And usually if we're alone, it's a very difficult, it's hard.
Just bad. I'm going to stop the recording now, yeah, because I think it is really on a great high note. So I wanted to say thank you for being here today, and thanks a lot for giving your insights and giving all of this. This is really a lot of information, a lot of things to consider, a lot of things to go think about. And so I really want to say thank you, and thank you for being here. Thank you for your time today. And I want to say to all of the listeners, go and subscribe to Bert, go like his videos, go see him, go reach out to him, go and follow him, and go and see the things he's doing, because I think you're really making an impact on people's life, and I think you're really trying to improve a lot of things, a lot of people, and breaking habits, forming better habits. Actually, you say replacing habits. That's the right word you said. So I want to say thanks a lot for today, and thanks a lot for your time. And Matt, where can people find you? Where can they reach out to you?
Look, before I go there, I want to say thank you for having me. I'm always open to share this message, because a lot of time it's just maybe getting that 1 or 2 people that makes them think. As you said, there's a lot of thinking. There's a lot of food for thought in this one. There's a lot of things to digest, pun intended. But sometimes just know, we're not alone. We all have these ups and downs. And you know what? It's okay. So really take some notes on today's one. Thanks for having me. Where can everyone find me? All the social media platforms. They can just Google Just Thrive. My brand is Just Thrive, because it's what we all want to do. We just want to thrive in life. With the hard, with the good, have a balance of everything. So you can find me on all of those places. Just Thrive.
Okay. Thanks a lot. Okay.
My pleasure.